The bus screeched to a halt outside the cracked asphalt lot of Milford High, and I bolted down the steps before the doors even hissed open fully, my duffel bag slamming against my thigh like an old friend punching hello. Sweat beaded on my forehead despite the crisp October chill, and my heart hammered wilder than it had during that last firefight in Kandahar. Because this was home, finally, after 2 goddamn years of sand and screams. But as I scanned the sea of faded yellow jackets and cheering signs, Jamie's face wasn't there, and the knot in my gut twisted into something sharper than shrapnel. Mom's arms crushed around me first, her floral perfume cutting through the diesel fumes, but her smile cracked like thin ice when I pulled back and rasped, "Where's my brother?" He promised he'd be front row, waving that stupid foam finger from his last birthday. She hesitated, eyes darting to the ground where autumn leaves swirled like unanswered questions, and whispered words that hit harder than any IED. They suspended him, Alex, for good this time, said he made the other kids uncomfortable. I dropped the bag right there, the thud echoing louder than the fading cheers, and stormed toward the school doors with Mom scrambling behind me, her pleas tangling in the wind like barbed wire. 2 years I'd clawed through hell to protect this place, to come back whole for the kid who'd written me letters scrawled with crayon hearts and questions about if I'd ever bring home a hero's medal, or maybe just a stray dog from the base. And now this, my little brother, the one who'd blast show tunes in the kitchen while flipping pancakes, cast out like yesterday's trash because he dared to love the wrong way? The principal's office smelled like stale coffee and regret, the kind that seeps into cheap paneling and never airs out. Mr. Hargrove sat behind his desk, a balding bulldog of a man with a tie knotted too tight, flipping through papers as if they were shields. "Sergeant Reynolds," he said, not bothering to stand, his voice oily smooth like he was selling used cars instead of futures. "Welcome home. Tragic timing on the suspension, but rules are rules. Your brother's behavior disrupted the learning environment." Behavior? I leaned forward, knuckles whitening on the armrests, the desert sun still baked into my skin, making me feel like a live wire in this fluorescent tomb. "You mean holding hands with his boyfriend in the hallway? Or wearing that rainbow pin on his backpack because he thought it was safe here?" Mom had filled me in on the drive over, the whispers that turned to shouts, the locker room taunts that escalated to shoved shoulders and slurs scratched into desks. Jamie, at 16, all gangly limbs and defiant grins, had finally snapped back one day, yelling at a pack of jocks who cornered him by the gym. No fists thrown, but words enough to get him labeled the aggressor. And now excluded, not expelled. Oh no, that'd require due process, but excluded. A weasel word for vanishing him from the rolls like he never existed. Hargrove steepled his fingers, eyes narrowing behind wire-rimmed glasses. "We're a traditional community, Sergeant. Milford values family values. If you'd been here, maybe you could have guided him straighter." The jab landed low, twisting the knife of my own secrets I'd buried under camo and camaraderie overseas. The late-night confessions to bunkmates that never made it stateside. The ache for a touch I couldn't name without risking everything. I wanted to vault the desk, pin him against that wall of dusty diplomas, and demand he choke on his own hypocrisy. But I breathed deep, tasting the metallic tang of restraint, and said, "Fix this, today, or I'll make sure every veteran in this county knows how you treat the kids left behind." He chuckled, a wet rumble that set my teeth on edge. "Threats won't change policy. Appeal if you like. The board meets next month." I stood, chair scraping like a warning shot, and shot back, "Oh, I will, and I'll bring the whole damn parade with me." Mom tugged at my sleeve as we left, her voice a fragile thread. "Alex, he's at the lake, hiding out like he does when it gets bad. Just be gentle. He's not the same kid who sent you those drawings." The drive to Willow Lake blurred past in a haze of red maples and rusted silos, the radio crackling some country ballad about lost loves that hit too close. I deployed right after Jamie came out, 17 and scared shitless, clutching my hand in the kitchen while Dad's ghost loomed in the empty recliner. His heart attack 3 years prior leaving us a fractured trio. "Promise you'll come back, Alex," Jamie had whispered then, eyes bright with that unbreakable trust only little brothers have. "And promise you'll love me no matter what." I promised, crossing my heart like we were kids again, building forts from couch cushions against the world. I found him on the rickety dock, skipping stones with more fury than finesse, his sneakers dangling over the water that lapped lazy at the pilings. The afternoon sun gilded his messy brown hair, but his shoulders hunched like he carried the weight of a deployment I couldn't share. "Hey, Squirt!" I called soft, dropping beside him, the wood creaking under my boots. He stiffened, then flung another rock, watching it sink with a plop that echoed my chest. "You weren't supposed to see me like this," he muttered, voice cracking like thin ice. The hero returns, and his sidekick's a dropout freak. I slung an arm around him, pulling him close despite the flinch, inhaling the familiar scent of lake water and teenage rebellion. Axe body spray mixed with the faint citrus of Mom's shampoo. "Bullshit. You're no freak. And school's the freak show if they can't handle you shining." He leaned in then, head on my shoulder, and the dam broke. A sob that wrenched from him like artillery fire, hot tears soaking my shirt. We sat like that till dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, him spilling the fragments I'd missed. The boyfriend, Tyler, who'd ghosted after the first complaint. The guidance counselor who'd suggested reparative therapy, like it was a goddamn elective. The nights he'd lain awake, phone clutched like a lifeline, scrolling through stories of kids who'd jumped from bridges just like this one. "I thought if I was louder, prouder, it'd scare them off," he said, wiping his nose on his sleeve. "But it just made me the target. And now, what, Alex?" I fade away. "Not on my watch," I growled, standing and hauling him up, our shadows merging long across the water. "We're fighting this. You, me, Mom. Hell, I'll call in favors from every queer vet I know from the base." His laugh was watery, but real, a spark in the gathering dark. As we trudged back to the truck, his hand brushed mine, a silent pact sealed in the crunch of gravel. For the first time since stepping off that bus, home didn't feel like a battlefield. Felt like a war worth winning. But wars have their ambushes. The next morning, over stacks of Mom's apology pancakes. Blueberry, Jamie's favorite. I mapped our assault. Petitions, local news, maybe even a lawyer from the ACLU hotline I dialed at 2 a.m. Jamie sketched protest signs on napkins, his artist's eye turning fury into fire. Rainbows laced with olive branches, slogans like, "Love isn't truancy." Mom hovered, wringing her apron like a lifeline, her quiet faith a bomb against my simmering rage. "Your father's rolling in his grave," she said softly, but I caught the pride in her eyes. The way she'd finally started wearing that proud ally pin Jamie made her for Mother's Day. By noon, we were at the county library, commandeering a corner table amid the hush of retirees and whispering students. I fired off emails to my old CO, a grizzled bear of a man who'd outed himself at the unit's holiday party last year, and scoured forums for precedents. Cases where schools buckled under parental storms. Jamie, headphones in, blasted what I assumed was Hosier, his fingers flying over keys researching state laws on discrimination. That's when I met him, or rather collided. I'd stepped out for coffee, black, no sugar, the way deployment wired you, and barreled right into a guy juggling a stack of flyers and a laptop bag, sending rainbow-stamped papers fluttering like confetti in a storm. "Shit, sorry," I yelped, dropping to knees to gather them, our hands brushing in the chaos. His were warm, calloused in a way that spoke of guitars or protests, not rifles. He laughed, low and easy, like sunlight cutting fog. "No harm. You're the soldier, right? Saw your face on the VFW poster last week." "Alex, yeah." I looked up, and damn if my pulse didn't skip like a misfired round. He was maybe my age, 28, with tousled black hair that fell just so, hazel eyes crinkled at the corners like he smiled through storms, and a jawline that could have been chiseled from the same marble as those memorials in D.C. A faded equality now T stretched across his chest, and a silver chain glinted at his throat, subtle, but screaming volumes. "Guilty," I managed, handing back the flyers, one catching on Milford pride. "Stand up, speak out. And you are Eli Navarro." He extended a hand, grip firm, lingering a beat too long in that electric way that makes your skin hum. "Teacher's aide at the high school, or was, till they reassigned me for handing out these." He tapped the stack, eyes darkening like thunderheads. Heard about Jamie. Kid's got guts. Reminds me of my little brother. Back when. He trailed off, rubbing his neck, a vulnerability flickering that hooked me deeper than any tour story. We ended up at the cafe next door. Coffee's cooling as words heated up. Eli spilled his own war tales. Not sand, but streets. Protests in Philly where he'd grown up. Fists raised against cops who baton-charged the lines. The brother who'd come out at 14 and got shipped to conversion camp by their preacher dad. Emerging a shell until he didn't. Lost him to an overdose 2 years back, Eli said, stirring his latte like it held answers. That's why I'm here. Milford's no utopia, but it's a start. Or was. I nodded, throat tight, sharing fragments of my own closet. The sergeant who'd cornered me in the showers, breath hot with whiskey and want, only to report me to psych evals the next day. The letters from Jamie that kept me sane, his unfiltered joy a beacon in the blackout. Coming back. I thought I'd bury it all. Play straight arrow big bro. But seeing him hurt? Lights a fuse I didn't know was there. Eli's gaze held mine, steady as a sniper's, and in that crowded diner, with the clink of spoons and murmur of locals, something shifted. Like the first rain after drought, promising flood or renewal. By the time we parted, numbers exchanged with a promise to team up. The sun hung low, casting Milford in amber glow. Jamie greeted me at the door with a smirk, napkin sign in hand. Who's the hot activist? Saw you two through the window. Sparks, bro. I ruffled his hair, heat creeping up my neck. Mind your elders, punk. He's helping. That's all. But as I lay awake that night, ceiling fan whirring like distant rotors, all wasn't true. Eli's laugh echoed in my skull, his touch a ghost on my palm, stirring once I'd locked down tighter than classified briefs. Homecoming was just beginning, and already, the lines were blurring. Brother's protector, town's rebel, and maybe, heart's quiet thief. The alliance formed fast, a ragtag battalion against the beige bureaucracy of Milford Unified. Eli brought the fire. Connections to the state LGBTQ center, a petition template polished from Philly battles, and a van plastered with murals that turned heads on Main Street. We'd meet at the community center after hours, Jamie doodling logos while Mom baked morale-boosting lemon bars, her way of fighting without words. I'd drill strategy like PT drills. Timelines for the board appeal, witness lists from sympathetic teachers who'd risk their jobs to testify. Eli's presence was the wild card, his energy a current that charged the room, making even the fluorescent hum feel like possibility. One evening, as rain lashed the windows like accusations, we pored over Jamie's file. Redacted suspensions, counselor notes laced with code, adjustment issues, peer conflicts. Eli's finger traced a line, voice dropping grave. This is textbook conversion speak. Hargrove's got ties to that megachurch outside town, donates big, sits on the board. They're pulling strings. I slammed the folder shut, chair legs screeching. Then we cut them. Public forum next week. I'll speak. Vet status gives weight. Jamie piped up from his sketchpad, eyes fierce. I'll speak too. My story. No hiding. Pride swelled in me, mixed with terror. The kid who'd once feared thunderstorms now ready to face a room of stone-faced suits. Eli caught my eye across the table. A nod of solidarity that lingered, warming the chill draft. Later, as we packed up, he lingered by the door, rain sheeting down. You're good at this, Alex. Leading without breaking. Wish I'd had a big bro like you. His hand on my arm was casual, but the squeeze said more. Gratitude, maybe, or the same spark I felt coiling low. That night, dreams tangled. Sand-swept patrols morphing to rainy streets. Eli's face superimposed on a fallen comrade's, waking me sweat-soaked and aching. I padded to the kitchen for water, finding Jamie at the table, staring at his phone. Tyler's texting again, he whispered. Says he misses me. But what if it's a trap? I sat beside him, arm around shoulders that no longer fit my memory. Trap or not, you deserve truth. Demand it. And if he flakes, there's a world out there waiting for your light. He hugged me fierce, a brother's anchor, but as he shuffled to bed, I wondered if my advice echoed hollow. My own heart a minefield, Eli's orbit pulling me toward detonation. The forum loomed like a checkpoint under fire. We rallied supporters. The librarian who'd slipped Jamie books on Stonewall, a cluster of queer kids from the rival high in Benton, even old Mr. Wilkins from the VFW, wheelchair-bound but voice like gravel thunder. Eli choreographed it. Chants prepped, signs smuggled in lunch bags. Non-violent, but unignorable. He'd say, eyes alight with that revolutionary gleam. Rehearsals turned intimate. Post-run debriefs at the diner, where grease-slick fries and bottomless coffee fueled late confessions. Eli shared his Philly scars, a lover lost to AIDS stigma, the tattoo on his wrist inked for a march that ended in arrests. I countered with desert silences, the almost kiss with a medic under starlit skies, aborted by dawn patrol. You're holding back, Eli said one night, booth light casting shadows that softened his edges. From Jamie? Or yourself? The question hung heavy as humidity before a squall. I traced the salt shaker's ridges, words scraping out. Both. Army drilled it in, don't ask, don't tell, even after repeal. And Jamie, he's my world. Can't risk fracturing it. Eli's foot nudged mine under the table, accidental on purpose, a Morse code of understanding. Fractures heal stronger. Trust me. The touch lingered, electric, and when we parted in the parking lot, rain-slicked and breathless, his goodbye hug pressed close, chest to chest, heartbeats syncing like faulty radios. I drove home fogged, windows steaming, replaying the press, the scent of his soap clinging like hope. But hope's a fragile foxhole. The betrayal came swift, a frag grenade in the foxhole. 2 days pre-forum, Eli's van vanished from the center lot, flyers scattered like shrapnel. My texts bounced unread, calls to voicemail, his chipper leave a message, revolutionary, mocking the silence. Jamie noticed first, during sign painting, where's Eli? He was gonna drive the Benton crew. I shrugged it off, busy probably, but gut instinct screamed ambush. By evening, I was at his apartment, a converted mill loft on the river's edge, pounding the buzzer till a neighbor cracked the door, face pinched. Navarro? Packed up last night. Left a note for some lawyer type. Said Milford was too hot. Didn't say goodbye to nobody. The drive back was blackout rage, wipers slashing futile at the downpour, tears mixing with rain on my cheeks. Betrayal burned bitter. Not just the vanishing act, but the echo of every ghosted foxhole promise. Had I misread the sparks? The hugs? Or worse, had he used us? Fed intel to Hargrove's camp for a payout, a quiet exit? Jamie waited up, eyes wide in the porch light. What happened? I pulled him into a bear hug, voice muffled in his hair. Ally bailed, but we don't need him. We're enough. Lies, maybe, but necessary foxhole cover. The forum dawned gray, sky spitting defiance. We marched in strong, 50 deep, signs thrusting like bayonets. Exclude hate, not hearts. Jamie led the testimonies, voice steady as he recounted the taunts, the isolation, ending with a quiet thunder. School's supposed to be safe harbor, not storm surge. Who's really disrupting if love's the crime? Cheers erupted, Mr. Wilkins thumping his cane like applause. My turn. I stood tall in civvies, dog tags glinting, painting the picture of a brother lost to shadows because traditional trumped tomorrow. I fought for freedom overseas. Won't let it die here on home soil. Hargrove squirmed in the front row, but the board chair, a stern widow with a cross necklace, called recess, murmurs rippling like aftershocks. As we spilled into the hall, a figure detached from the shadows. Eli, haggard, duffel at feet, eyes ringed dark as bruises. Alex, wait. I froze, Jamie's hand clenching mine like shield. Packed? Or ran? He winced, words tumbling. Not betrayal. Threat. Church goons cornered me last week. Said they'd expose my agitator past to the school board. Get me blacklisted nationwide unless I ghosted. I thought going dark protected you, bought a burner, fed them fake trails. But I couldn't stay away. Not from this. Not from. His gaze locked on mine, raw, the unsaid hanging electric. Relief crashed, tangled with fury, but Jamie tugged free, hugging Eli fierce. Dude, warn a guy next time. Heroes don't solo. Laughter broke the dam, and as we regrouped in the green room, now allies unbroken, Eli's hand found mine under the table, fingers lacing tentative. "Forgive the foxhole?" he murmured. I squeezed back, pulse thundering. "Only if you fight beside." The board reconvened at dusk, lights harsh as interrogations. Votes trickled. Nay from the church ally, but eyes snowballed. Wilkins' war stories tipping the scale, Jamie's truth the hammer. Reinstatement with protections. The chair intoned, gavel falling like ceasefire. Jubilation exploded. Hugs, tears. Mom's quiet sob of vindication. Outside, under street lamps blooming gold, Jamie hooped, spinning with a sign like helicopter blades. Eli and I hung back, breath fogging the chill. "You did this," he said soft, thumb brushing my knuckle. "We did." The space between us hummed, and when he leaned in, slow, questioning, I met him halfway, lips brushing tentative, tasting salt and storm's end. Not fire, but hearth warm, enduring. Months blurred to seasons. Jamie thrived. Tyler faded to friendship's echo. New crushes blooming like spring crocuses. School policy shifted. Ripples from our stone, counselor trainings, ally clubs sprouting. Eli and I, we built slow. Diner dates stretching to dawn drives. His guitar strums lulling me from nightmares. My steady hand anchoring his restless fire. No grand gestures, just the quiet romance of shared silences. Watching sunrises from the lake dock, Jamie's laughter the soundtrack. One July 4th, fireworks cracking overhead like distant thunder. We sat on the truck bed, Jamie sprawled between us, Mom's pie cooling nearby. To homecomings, Eli toasted with a beer, eyes on me soft as firelight. The kind that stick. I clinked, heart full, knowing battles lingered, bigger wars beyond Milford's map. But here, in this patchwork family forged from fractures, we'd carved sanctuary. Not perfect, but human, flawed, fierce, and unyieldingly ours. And in that, grace enough to carry on.